is getting some information on 25 so that the committee can look at it. Committee will go ahead and start and open the hearing on Senate Bill 74.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Senate Bill number 74 provides for a refundable income tax credit for expenditures for lockable gun and ammunition storage. The bill would establish a refundable income tax credit for tax years 2025 through 2027 for a resident individual in an amount equal to 25% of the expenditures made by that individual during the tax year to purchase lockable gun and ammunition storage. And the credit amount would be limited to $250 per taxpayer per year. And the bill would take effect from and after publication in the statute book, and I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Amelia. Committee, any questions? Thank you. Committee first conferee, I don't need to welcome him to the committee because the good senator is on the committee. Senator Mike Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate you letting me testify from sitting in my seat today with my knees. Committee, Senate Bill 74 is a tax credit on lockable gun and ammunition storage. The concept for this came about last year when I was sitting in my office visiting with Moms Demand Action folks. Talked about how they'd always tried to mandate things, but why don't I was saying, what if we encourage something, encourage someone to do it? So I came up with this idea of a tax credit. I was trying to figure out how much and how to limit it. I believe tax credits should all be reviewed and they should have limits on them. And I was at a Menard store, large big box lumber yard, and they had gun safes. These guys were sitting there looking at this little gun storage deal. It's $169. Another one was $199. They were talking back and forth. They said something that caught my attention. They said, they normally run these 25% off on Black Friday. I'm going to wait till Black Friday. I thought if 25% would encourage them to buy one, that's the number. So we had this bill drafted. We've done it. I've nicknamed it the gas bill, gun and ammunition storage. So you want to pass gas, you know, put the proper limits in it so it wouldn't bloat the budget. However, the fiscal note came out a little high. It said it's $16 million, $16.6 million on the first year. But if you do note in that the fiscal note, it says if gun owners purchase a new safe every 20 years, there's an expected impact of $16.6 million. Well, they put it in for the first year and the second year, so we're going to have a lot of gun safe sales. I hope that, I only wish that was the case, but I don't think there's that many people are going to buy them. With that, I'd be happy to sit for questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Committee, Mariah Day is our next conferee. Welcome, Mariah.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Appreciate you having me here. Mariah Day with National Shooting Sports Foundation, NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association. I just wanted to very briefly talk to you all today and voice our support for this bill. You have my written testimony in front of you. I won't read it verbatim. The good senator already adequately explained the bill and very eloquently explained the need for this bill. But I'd just like to say that NSSF seeks to promote, protect, and preserve hunting and the shooting sports. A number of other states in the region are considering similar bills. It's very interesting to me. So I cover a region of 7 states for NSSF, and a number of these other states, we're dealing with these bills that are very bipartisan in nature. Some of the bills are brought by Republican legislators in these states. Some are brought by Democrat legislators in these states. But you know, all of them are receiving some level of bipartisan support from what I'm seeing. And that's a good thing because the last thing members of the firearm industry want to see or hear about is our products being misused. We like to see individuals who are responsible firearm owners taking responsible action to secure their firearms. It's for these reasons NSSF is proud to support SB 74, and we would encourage your support for this bill as well. I would just very briefly like to kind of tack on to what the senator mentioned about the fiscal note. I only saw the fiscal note this morning, but I would agree. I believe the number is rather high. I don't have specific market data in front of me, but I'd be happy to try to pull some of that information. My gut feeling is, though, that that number is significantly higher than what we would see. Obviously, our industry would love to see numbers, in that range because that represents incredible sales in this space, but it's just not going to happen. The other issue too is the estimate for the average price of firearm safes, I believe, is significantly higher than it needs to be because a lot of firearm and ammunition storage devices are not going to be a full-size firearm safe that holds 24 to 60 firearms or something. So with that, I'd be happy to stand for questions at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariah. Committee, I don't see any questions, so thank you. Committee, I'll turn your attention to Ian Brannon's written testimony. Is there anybody else that would like to testify for the bill? Are there any opponents for the bill? Any neutral on the bill? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 74, except, Senator, would you like to explain how you named the bill?
It is the Gun and Ammunition Storage Act, tax credit. And I thought it'd be fun that after it got through the Senate, we could tell our friends over in the House to pass gas.
Thank you, Senator. And I would echo your comments on the fiscal note. I just briefly did the math at 17 million with a $250 cap. That would mean 68,000 of these security locks would have to sell to reach that fiscal note. Senator Schallenberger.
Yeah, and I also was reading the fiscal note. I saw that Department of Revenue needs $177,000 to implement it, and one employee. It just seems bizarre. Clearly, they don't want the bill, so they're trying to dissuade us. I don't think that's appropriate. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you. Committee, I do plan to work it. It will be after turnaround, but unless something changes. So we'll turn our attention now to Senate Bill 210. Amelia, will you give us an overview?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Senate Bill number 210 provides a sales tax exemption for certain purchases and sales by the Johnson County Christmas Bureau Association. The bill would amend KSA 793606. And if you turn to the last page of your bill, page 44 is where you will find the new language. The bill would provide a sales tax exemption for sales of tangible personal property and services purchased by or on behalf of the Johnson County Christmas Bureau Association for the purpose of providing food, clothing, cleaning supplies, personal care items, and other necessities of life to those in need and desiring assistance. It would also include a sales tax exemption for all sales of tangible personal property by or on behalf of such organization. And the bill would take effect from and after publication in the statute book, and I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Amelia. Seeing no questions, thank you. Committee, I'm going to turn our attention to the first conferee, Roseanne Newcomer. She's on WebEx. Roseanne, are you with us?
I am. I'm trying to, can you hear me?
Yes, we just can't see you.
To get my video to, it wouldn't work on my iMac, so I'm going to my phone. It says unverified. Don't know what that means. I apologize. change. No, I don't really need all that.
Do you want to just go ahead and give your testimony? We're going to run out of
Sure.
time.
I'm sorry. I'll go ahead and introduce myself again, Roseanne Newcomer, and I basically have been involved with Johnson County for several years now. However, I actually learned about it when I was a child. My mom was actually a recipient of Johnson County Christmas Bureau, and I know firsthand the value of receiving literally a brand new coat, and the confidence and the gesture of that is just a huge impact on me. And several years later, as a single mom, I actually experienced as a recipient myself as well. And at the time, I have two young children at the time and working full time in a management position and was barely making ends meet. And for a few years, I did use Johnson County Christmas Bureau, and I realized what a huge impact it did for my family at the time as well. When you're barely surviving during the times of economic times back then, which was about 20 years ago, a huge impact. Since then, though, I have been a volunteer and a board member and have found that not only is it a great gesture and impact for our neighbors in need, but as me being a neighbor helping neighbors has given me an insight that didn't even feel that was possible. And through fundraising efforts and learning more about the leaders in the group and being a full-time volunteer along with my husband, we've tried to find a way to impact the community even bigger. And that's how we have aligned ourselves with Johnson County Christmas Bureau. It is the 65-year anniversary, so we are looking forward to celebrate that even more and showcase what the community can do when they come together. The funds, though, in itself is a huge impact. I know that the taxes that we pay could actually go to the neighbors in need directly. And that's where I plead with you to just consider us having our status of having that taken care of through SB 210. Other than that, I would just thank you for the time and hope that you can help the Johnson County Christmas Bureau in many ways. And this is one through this being the Neighbors Helping Neighbors initiative.
Thank you, Roseanne. Committee, any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Our next conferee is Jonathan Sublett. Welcome, Jonathan. I know this is a little unique, but I've asked him to testify on this legislation.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. My name is Jonathan Sublett, and I'm the founder and executive director of Cent Inc. Cent is primarily located in the Highcrest neighborhood, one of Topeka's and Kansas's most under-resourced neighborhoods historically. When we first began work there, one of the officers for the TPD said that that neighborhood used to have over 500 reported crimes a month. Last year in October, we had 34. In 5 short years, we've taken that community that's always been rated as intensive care and moved it, half of it to being healthy and the other half to being at risk. In 2019, we built that neighborhood's first brand new house in over 60 years. We built Topeka's first net zero house in 2023. We stand to develop a 48 single-family home workforce housing development, break ground on that this year. And across the street from that, a 176-unit LMI multifamily unit complex. We continue to provide holistic care for the community. We have a low-barrier client choice food pantry that feeds 600 families a month from over 38 different zip codes. We have medical care. So even last night, as I was working our 24-hour warming center, our medical staff was able to treat frostbite on our unsheltered brothers and sisters. We have substance use disorder treatment, mental health treatment, chiropractic services, discount massage therapy, occupational therapy services, case management, and mailbox services to go along with the other things that we offer. We're able to totally wrap ourselves around our friends and neighbors in our community, and we're looking at ways to expand our model. We're currently in talks with KHI to do a year-long study on our model to see how to expand it across the state of Kansas. And so with that, I ask that you would amend Senate Bill 210 to include us in that, to allow us to continue the work that we are doing for the state of Kansas.
Thank you. And
you.
we will request a fiscal note on that, what it would be to amend it. Committee, any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more conferee for Senate Bill 210 via WebEx. Nina Kimbrough, are you online?
Yes, ma'am, I'm online.
Great.
Yes, can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. My name is Nina Kimbrough, and I am the Executive Director of the Johnson County Christmas Bureau. And to Madam Chair and our honorable senators, I just wanted to let you know that, as Roseanne Newcomer stated, we have been in business since 1960. This is our 65th year anniversary. The Johnson County Christmas Bureau provides warmth and support during the winter months and holiday months to low-income Johnson County families. And we also increase awareness of poverty in the Johnson County area, as well as give neighbors an outlet to help neighbors. Now, just in the last 5 years, we have helped over 58,000 individuals during that time. This last December, we helped 13,000 individuals who were low income. At that time, we served them with groceries, with books, with adult gifts, children's gifts, but also those warm items, hats and gloves, coats, brand new clothes and shoes. We give gifts to their family for personal care items, the diapers, the personal care items, feminine care products, all of those products, as well as the coats and hats and gloves and clothing. So we have 10 different departments, and we also serve our elderly. And we served last year 1,100 of those during the December months. So we ask you honorably, as our fiscal note, is about $17,000. We spend about $260,000 to set up a holiday shop so that people can shop with dignity for their family. All of these services are free and no charge to the individuals, and we help tighten the gap where that supporter for other nonprofit organizations who have run out of money during the winter months. And so Johnson County comes in, the Christmas Bureau helps these individuals, Catholic Charities, Safe Home, the division, the Department of Children and Families. They send their clients to us because they have many times not the resources to be able to take care of those families during that time. So we thank you for allowing us to come today to show you the impact. And I will just leave with this. One of our families says, we didn't know how we would have Christmas or be able to have warm clothing for our children this year. They said, because of you, we were able not to only find the perfect gifts for our children, but also winter clothing, coats, plus groceries, toiletries, and household items. We were not expecting all of these things and were overwhelmed by your generosity. I would like to thank you, Madam Chair and honorable senators, for taking our bill into consideration, Senate Bill 210. Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity.
No, thank you, Nina. I thought it was a short I apologize. So thank
no.
you. Committee, any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Is there any other proponents for SB 210? Any opponents? Committee, we do have written testimony from Spittens or Duncan. Anybody that would like to testify neutral? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 210 and draw your attention to SB 109. Amelia, when you get a chance, will you give us an overview?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, as a reminder, Senate Bill number 109 relates to sales and compensating use tax and would provide a remittance credit to retailers in an amount equal to 1.5% of such remittance. The total tax credit amount does have a limit that it shall not exceed $300 for each retailer per month.
Committee, what are your wishes on the bill? Any discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion to move on the bill? Or Senator Peck?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I had some discussion with some, and I apologize for being late on the trigger here, to, if you will, exclude the big box stores for the, because this is for our smaller business owners, because it's a rather onerous task on some of our small, so I don't have an amendment. I don't think I ever even said anything to revisers. I should have, but in any event.
Senator, we accept conceptual amendments. So if you would like to amend, that would be fine. The reason the $300 limit was to basically keep it toward the smaller stores. But if you see something that can improve the language, please feel free.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. $300, it doesn't specify, so, and I know $300 to some of our big boys is nothing, but it's money that is being taken from one taxpayer to another. So I'm sorry, I don't know how to, I can introduce a concept and then let the revisers, who are much smarter than me, come up with the language. Because again, my whole thing is, and I don't know where we want to set a limit, but or how we would define the difference between a large retailer and a small retailer.
Well, Senator, that's why we did bring up the $300 limit, because it is very difficult for the revisers to say, you're excluded, you're not in the bill. So we felt that, but if you think that note to lower it or to change it to address, to make sure that we are helping the smaller businesses, it's whatever you deem.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Rather than hold up things here and just sort of fly by the seat of my pants, I don't have any problem with working this, and then with your understanding and knowledge, working on an amendment for when this does go to the floor.
That would be fine, Senator. But if you want, we could hold off too. It is an exempt bill.
I'd like to get us moving forward on this.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Corson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm reluctantly going to be against this bill, at least at this point. I'm interested in the amendment from our Vice Chair, but the only reason I'm against it at this point is just a fiscal note. I just think that we've got a lot of tough decisions that we have to make as a committee. A $60 million fiscal note is really significant. I look at our budget. I know that we have other priorities on tax that we're hoping to accomplish this session. So at this point, I'm just not convinced that this is sort of the highest and best possible use of a $60 million fiscal note. I'm open to seeing what it would be after maybe a possible amendment. I do think it's meritorious. I'm glad that the idea has been brought forward. I'm obviously concerned that we're not as competitive in this area as some of our neighboring states, but I just think as a committee, we're going to have to make some really tough decisions when I look at the budget and I look at some of our other tax priorities. So at this point, I'm just not sure that this rises to the top of what we should be considering. But so at this point, I'll be a no, but I'm interested in seeing what we can do with the fiscal note, maybe with some amendments. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion? Senator Schallenberg.
I might make a comment. Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've never been on tax before, but been involved a whole lot. And one of the things I've wondered when we started all this whole process was what does a tax, what tax breaks motivate people to do things? And clearly you can give a tax break to an industry to get them to move in, and they create jobs and they do things. And but I remember my Econ 101 class that said retail follows rooftops and rooftops follow smokestacks. And retail is there because people are there to spend money. And I don't really think we have to give tax break to retailers. Now, I know the retailer is the tax is being paid by the consumer, but the consumer is buying that at retail because it's convenient and they put a store there. So I would think I would agree with the ranking member that if we have to prioritize, I don't have a problem voting for this. If someone makes a motion, I'll probably vote for it, but I just assume devote our tax credits to things that might cause people to do things differently. And I'm not sure this would do that.
I've often said, I'm an engineer, software engineer, and we engineer people's behaviors through our tax code. We absolutely do. The reason we're looking at this is because our businesses are, I mean, it costs them money to collect taxes for the state. But I do hear the committee's comments. I think we'll hold off on this, and I'm glad to hear the comments. This is a working committee. I've always said that. And so we'll hold off on working this legislation. It'll allow the vice chairman time to visit with the revisers to see what types of amendments would be possible. And I do appreciate it. Does anybody else have any comments or questions on this? Senator Clemp.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Seem to fall in line with where Senator Schellenberger is, as well as the comments from Senator Corson. So thank you for holding off.
No problem, committee. So wonderful. Committee, let's turn our attention to Senate Bill 69. John's getting ahead of himself. He's very good. So committee, what he's handing out now is, we had the hearing on the sales tax exemptions, and we had requested information on if some of these exemptions were actually collected, what kind of fiscal notes we would be looking at. I thought this would be good information for us to have. So thank you for putting that together, Eddie. Yeah. Is there any questions on that handout? I think it's definitely an eye-opener as we move forward, but it's something we need to keep in mind. So Amelia, will you give us an overview on Senate Bill 69, Rural Opportunity Zone?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Senate Bill number 69 relates to rural opportunity zones, and it would extend by 5 years the time period for eligibility for the student loan repayment program and the income tax credit. And this was discussed, I believe, earlier this week. My weeks are running together, whether it was earlier this week, okay, earlier this week. And there were some proposed amendments that were handed out for discussion. One related to expanding eligibility for the income tax credit to those who are residing in non-ROS counties who move to a ROS county. And then there was another one for discussion relating to adding down payment assistance and child care reimbursement to the programs eligible with student loan. Well, it would be a choice of the 3 options: student loan repayment, down payment assistance, or child care reimbursement.
Okay. And we have not taken action on any of those items. They were just up for discussion. So Senator Corson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question for the reviser. So that last sentence, I want to make sure I understood that. So if you were a recipient, you would get to pick one of the 3 that you felt like for your situation was most beneficial. You would get the tax credit, the loan repayment, or the child care. Is that correct? I just want to make sure I'm understanding that right.
That particular proposed amendment did not address the income tax credit. So that is not an issue with that particular amendment. This amendment would expand the provisions for student loan repayment that a county could add 1 or 2 additional options if they chose to the program that they offer in their county. One would be down payment assistance, the other would be child care reimbursement. Depending on what the county chose to add to their offering, then an individual coming into that county would be able to choose one of the options that the county offered.
And to clarify, it would not change the student loan match from the state. And there would not be a match on the other for the state. Is that correct?
No, the other 2 programs that would be added also similarly would have a match. They were structured the same way as the student loan repayment, where there would be a match from the state for each of those programs, the same way the student loan program is operated.
Okay, so we would need to get an updated fiscal note on that. Is that, or was there a limit on the match?
The language is similar to what is found in the student loan repayment, which has a maximum benefit to the individual of $15,000, and that is in equal shares between the state and the county. So in essence, that would be up to a $7,500 match by the state for those programs. But again, an individual can only choose one of the 3, and it's up to the county whether they want to offer 1, 2, or 3 of the options.
Okay, and there is a $10 million cap on the program, so we are covered. Okay, thank you. Committee, any questions? Committee, what are your wishes on the bill? Senator Klump, do you want to offer one of your amendments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I offer the amendment we just discussed to move forward.
Okay, it was a handout, and I just want to clarify to the committee which handout it was.
The one we were just discussing, Madam Chair, up in the right-hand corner, in the box, it reads down payment assistance and child care reimbursement up in the top right.
Okay, I'm on the right page now. I think everyone else is too. Senator Owens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question, see if I remember this correctly. There's a $10 million cap overall, but we're not hitting that cap. We're only getting about halfway there every year. Is that about right?
I think we're at about 3 to 4 million.
3 to 4 million. So this expands that, but still keeps the cap, which I really think is actually a really good idea because that cap exists. Thank you.
Committee, any other comments?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Senator Klump, and it's the attachment that was handed out. It's seconded by Senator Schallenberger. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're back on the bill, and Senator Klump, do you want to offer your second amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The second amendment would be to increase the amount of the second amendment was to increase eligibility, and that would allow for folks in non-RAS counties to be able to move to a RAS county. The feeling was in our discussion, whether they're outside the state or inside the state, if the intent of the program is to drive folks into RAS counties, why would we say they only have to come from outside the state? So this still plays, so it would just be broadening the amount of folks that would have an opportunity to move out into opportunity zones. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Committee, any questions? Senator Owens.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess he didn't move his motion. I was going to second it, but I will also comment and just say, I think this is great. We know that there is an inward migration into urban areas. We saw that especially with redistricting a couple years ago and how those maps shifted. And so again, I love the idea of incentivizing people to move into those rural communities and hopefully utilize this up to the $10 million cap. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I had discussion with the senator offering the amendment, and I had one concern, and that was in the amendment of 2 or more years. And I told him that I could almost tolerate living in a non-RAS county for 24 months to move back home for the tax benefit. And so I know we don't have a motion, but I would like to request, I guess is the word I would use, that the 2 or more years be increased to whatever amount the committee's comfortable with. But I'm thinking a minimum of 3. We might even make it uniform at 5, but something, because 24 months goes by pretty quick. Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Klemp, do you want to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Senator Peck and I did discuss that, and I do feel that the intent of the 2 years was to deter what he was mentioning and just talking about. So if that is a 36-month, keeping that as low as possible, where you deter kind of the shenanigans, and but 5 years might be a little too long. But if the committee is comfortable with 36 months, I would approve adjusting at 36 months.
Senator Peterson.
Just to be sure, we're still leaving in, he had a Kansas source income of less than $10,000 in any 1 year for 5 or more years prior. That's still being left in, correct?
We would have to adjust that. Thank you for, I'm sorry. Amelia.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, that particular, the current requirements that the Kansas source income would still apply to the current moving out of state, moving in. This new provision does not have any limitation on Kansas source income in prior years.
Okay, thank you. But I think we should take a look at that, because if you have somebody that's been working in Kansas and would like to live in the state, but we can discuss that later, but thank you for bringing that up. Yes, thank you. Okay, so Senator Clem, do you want to make your motion and land on the number of years?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we move forward with expanding eligibility for the income tax credit, and we adjust the amendment to 36 months.
Okay, it's been moved by Senator Clamp, seconded by Senator Schallenberger. Discussion on the motion. And I will ask, is 36 months enough? Committee? And Senator Clamp, we need to be clear, 3 years or 36 months on the motion.
I think the motion would be 3 or more years. Change 2 to 3.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That would simplify it. Thank you. Okay. Is the second okay with that? Okay. Thank you. Discussion on the motion then. Committee seems okay with 3 years? All those in favor of the motion, say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're back on the bill. Committee, Senator Peterson did bring up a thing, the $10,000 limit, but maybe that's too much of the bite of the apple. We've done quite a bit to this bill today. Are there any other questions or comments on the bill? I do have one question. I've had people that have applied for this, and they have to live in that area for a full year before they can apply for it. And so I'm trying to figure out the logistics of, like if they move in the middle of the year, they don't actually qualify until the year that they have lived here a full year.
Madam Chair, are you talking about the income tax credit or the income tax credit? One of the requirements for the income tax credit is that the eligible individual have lived in the state of Kansas or in the Rural Opportunity Zone county for the entire tax year. So let's take 2024 for an example. If they moved, just an illustrative example, moved to their Rural Opportunity Zone in December of 2023, resided in the Rural Opportunity Zone and qualified, lived there the entire year of 2024. When they filed their taxes in the spring of 2025, they could use the income tax credit if they qualified for 2024. That would be their first year.
I was just wondering if it wasn't an entire year and their first year was a partial year, that would help decrease the fiscal note somewhat too. But I'll leave it up to the will of the committee, whatever. Okay, we won't make that change. Committee, what are your wishes on the bill? Senator Owen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we pass out Senate Bill 69 as amended favorably.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by Senator Owen, seconded by Senator Klemp. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Committee, I did want to turn our attention to Senate Bill 25. I'm debating on this as to, we have a few minutes left. Let's go ahead and open the discussion. Just that one. So committee, there's been some back and forth, quite interesting, between the Department of Insurance, or the Insurance Office and the fiscal note. I know there were questions when we were looking at this legislation before. I'm thinking what I'll do is not work the bill today, and we'll invite the Secretary of Administration and the Insurance Commission back and have them in the room when we work the bill. I know that will be a little bit unique, but I would like to make sure that we understand. And I know that Senator Peck had some questions. You might have some possible amendments on this legislation. Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I had visited with the department outside of the committee hearing, and right now I do not have any thoughts on amendments. I think I got the answers. I'm still not 100% satisfied with the answers, but I don't have any at this time, any amendments.
Committee, is there any wish to try to move on this? I think we should have a better understanding of where we're at on this legislation. Does everybody agree? Okay. So we will invite them, not next week, next week's turnaround, but the week after, and then we will have the discussion and take a look at working this legislation. Committee, is there any other business to be brought before us? I would love to move on the gas bill today, but I usually let them lay over. So we'll wait on that too. Committee, we will not be meeting next week since it is turnaround. You're going to have plenty to do without having tax committee meetings. So is there no other business? We're adjourned.